So, for this next recap, we follow Octavian and Mars back to their inn. They retire for the evening. They weren't too hurt. I don't believe they long rested, but Mars, played by Lee, or Lee playing Mars, could not make this session. But we had a new player in Hugo, played by Dave. So Octavian decides he wants to see some excitement, so he goes out into the night, uses disguise self, I believe, and turns himself into an old woman looking to be mugged. At the same time, Dave, I don't want to go into his backstory just yet, but he had some things going on. So he was out at night just patrolling, and he encountered Octavian. Octavian at that moment had found a deceased man in an alley, thinking he had been murdered, started investigating. Turns out the guy had died of natural causes. He was homeless, and he had sadly passed because he could not eat anymore. He had no food. So they drag his body to the street to leave him to be found so someone could, give him a proper burial. Which, I will mention, the burials on Dextros are literally throw them over the side, unless they're royalty. Which I believe I explained in that situation. But Octavian and Hugo decide, okay, we're going to still look for trouble. We're going to look for fights. So Octavian, still in disguise of an old woman, decides to walk down the street shouting, "Oh, I hope nobody mugs me." Standard Bugs Bunny type crap. But in the end, they do actually run into a group of bandits. The bandits are low level, like really low level, like basic, like this, 11 HP, 12 AC, low initiative. This is the 2024 bandit, but I clicked it because I like the image a little bit more. But they find a group, I think it was 3 bandits. They beat the crap out of them. Well, one guy gets hit in the head by Hugo, who I should say, Hugo is an artificer. He's also an ASMR, I don't know. But he uses his, I believe at the time he had like a mace. He hits one of the bandits so hard, kills him instantly. Octavian then transforms into a skeleton form, drops the disguise self basically, and intimidates the other 2 to run off and just rethink their lives. Then they decide, okay, we don't want this guy to die. So they bring him back to life. They interrogate him, like, why'd you turn to crime? Why are you a bad guy? And he basically, he explains, well, that's, I owe a lot of people money, and he goes on to how bad his life is. So I believe they fix him up, tell him to leave town, to never come back, and start a new life. So that's what happens. They then, it gets hazy here. I know for a fact, I think Octavian took his appearance, like used to disguise self to look like the guy, which I don't think came to any head. It just was something he did that never came up again. I don't remember. Like I said, this is from 2021. This is like the first session, pretty, ingrained in my memory. Some of the second sessions in there, and then everything else is going to be, mix match. I'm probably going to make mistakes. But they decide, okay, Hugo is a citizen of this city. Like, he's not foreign like Octavian or Mars. He's from the city. So he suggests, hey, we can go into the bowels to the night market. So they do. And this is where they find my favorite thing, the rickety staircase, which is literally just a staircase on the side of Dextros that just goes down into the bowels, but the staircase is just free floating. It's shackled by metal, like there's railings and all that, but it literally looks like it's floating over the edge. If you fall, you're dead. And I love it because it comes into play later. They get to the night market, and they're still looking for trouble, looking for things to do. And I believe they asked around and got sent to... There are 2 warring gangs in the city. The Pack and the Flock, who I have used in my other campaigns. I just like the names. They're, the gang, the Pack, and the Flock at Rivals. That's a great name. So I've used it plenty of times. But they go to a place, and I remember the name of the shop as the Material Girl. They go there because this is apparently where the Flock is running, their outfit. They go in, they talk, they mull about until they finally get in to talk to the leader. They're led into the back of the tent. The Flock is a gang of all women, if I recall. I don't remember why or how, it's just how it kind of came to be. I think it literally was just, I just kept describing female characters, and I was like, yeah, they're all female, I don't care. But they talk to them. They get that there is a get-together with the pack. Not with them, obviously, but there's a party going on with the pack and some other gang members. Not like gang members in the sense of other gangs, but more like, hey, prospective gang members. A big party. Octavian disguises himself as one of the flock's members who was a musician who was sneaking into the party to gather information. But Octavian and Hugo said, hey, we can take him out. Just, give us some poison. So they give him some pretty potent poison and send them on their way. They go deeper into the bowels until they reach the pack's hideout, and pretending to be the one flock member who is also a musician, they get in under the guise of performers. They go in. Octavian immediately starts distracting the gang, starts singing because he's a bard. And at this point, he was low level, but he had, I believe he had, where is it? He had expertise. He had jack of all trades. He had, where is it? I know he had something. He had something that made it so he rarely failed. It doesn't matter. He always rolled really well on his, deception, persuasion, intimidation. So he's distracting these guys, and at this point, Hugo's going around and he's spiking the drinks with this poison. As they all start to take effect, Octavian drops his guys, reveals his skeleton form once more, intimidates them all before they all drop into unconsciousness and then eventual death as they are killed off. Because they're not good guys. They are bad. They are a gang. They've killed people. They've extorted people. They're not good people. So they died. And I believe that's where that session ended. They went back, got paid by the flock, made some allies, went back up to the top of the city, and just session ended there. I will say this was coming from a time when I love D&D, don't get me wrong, but I have a hard time sitting still for long periods of time. So my sessions were maybe 2 to 2 hours and 30 minutes long, sometimes barely an hour and 45. And that worked with the group previously because they were also they weren't completely into D&D. But as I played with my cousin and them, I started, lengthening the sessions. I started playing more because I was enjoying it more. And now with Psycha, I can play for hours. Like we originally played Sundays at 3 p.m., but it was difficult because Pat works on Mondays. So I said, okay, what if we do Saturdays at 4 p.m. and we play, later? And everybody loved it. We haven't played too late because, life gets in the way. But it's there if we ever want to play, into the evening hours. But yeah, that's how that session ended. The next couple of episodes are going to be difficult because there's a lot going on. There's a new player. There's a lot going on, and it all kind of gets jumbled together. And I'm probably going to forget things or put them in the wrong time or just misplace them.